worked that problem. I got the bag. There's a lot out here still. There's a lot. My cousin's right in front.
Second floor. Switch out.
I got him. Man down.
We got a man down. That was a breacher. I'm pretty sure Snowfall was the team leader.
Jack here, fish finder.
Only one round.
This is TAC Air. I've got visual on multiple hostiles in a roof south of LRP Butler. Might be the AQI headquarters you're looking for.
Copy that. I'll get third squad to secure the target. Third squad, Spartan 3. Iron Mountain convoy is en route to the LRP. ETA 20 mics. Secure and hold that AQI complex until the convoy's on site with resupply.
Oh,
Okay,
you
target
also get
building
an
straight
M4.
there.
You also get an M16 if you're in the breacher. Pretty cool, actually.
Oh, you're a grenadiers, no?
Yeah, I only have 2 rounds though.
Oh, really? That's kind
It
of.
didn't seem that effective either.
Contact south. All right, we're pushing left side.
Left side.
Technical. Technical left.
That was a V-bid.
Oh my god.
Fucked up.
With you.
You're pushing for me now. I got this right and left.
Got it. Go.
With you here, man. Just watching the middle.
You open these? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you can. Breacher up.
Oh, I got it. Charge
You got
up.
it?
I got it. Cover.
Okay.
Fire in the hole. Fire in the hole. Fire in the hole.
I don't know if I got him. He's right behind that fucking car.
You want me to frag a Bob?
Yeah, frag right in between this car and truck. Go. Bag.
Up.
All right.
I'm going right. I'm going right.
Clear. It's open left. Let's go right. It's open left. I'm pushing right.
Copy
Last
with you.
man's now.
Long stack, go first.
Go.
Spartan 3, we got a store of heavy weapons
Strong wall. Strong wall.
the shit out of it.
All right. Go deep. Go deep. Go deep. All right, Grim, on you. Hey, snow suppress the blue roof.
Blue roof.
All right, everyone collapse in. Collapse in.
Going up. So.
Need one.
With you.
All in.
Oh,
I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this.
Door. With you, Grim.
Your left.
No factory.
Friendly, friendly.
Yep.
On me, Grim.
Ready?
Right, clear. There's something on the green side. Something on the green side. Careful. Moose, you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Hallway left.
Flip it, flip it, flip it, flip it now, flip it now.
Go, go, go.
Snow's up. I dropped the stairs.
Clear.
On you, Snow.
I'm trying to leave with my light.
Yep.
Left, right, left, right.
All right, get ready to defend.
Yep.
I got eyes north and west. Second floor west building.
Frag out.
I'm reloading. I'm back online.
Fuck. Hey, I'm hurt.
Covering. Cover us.
Shit. You okay?
Mag. There's a lot of them down there. Frag out.
Hey, let the dust settle, then we can push down. Check.
Mag.
Board 3, third squad's all done in here. Compound secure.
Good job, boys.
Squad, the collection team's already on the way to grab the intel.
All right, guys. So what you just watched there was an 8-minute cut from about an hour or so play session from earlier this week. I got my hands on an early alpha build of 6 Days in Fallujah, so big thanks to them for letting me get access there. And I have some pretty strong feelings about this game. So this second half of this video is going to be kind of casual. We're going to be going over the pros and cons of this initial, very early access build. And we're going to get into how I feel about, you know, what I liked about the game and what I disliked. So let's start off with the disclaimer. First off, this was an early build that I got to play, and we were only allowed to play really one mission. So while this game does have procedural generation, and I actually did see a significant amount change from round to round, whether it be the kinds of enemies that we saw. For example, in one round there was a V-bid, where in the next there wasn't. We saw RPG gunners, where in another playthrough we didn't see those as well. I think there's a decent amount of replayability that we'll get just from the procedural generation of every map every single time you play. But only seeing one map in one game mode, it did kind of limit the scope of what I was actually able to get my hands on. And so just keep that in mind when I go through these pros and cons, as a lot of them could be just simply adjusted or fixed by seeing more of the game. First off, the pros. This game is beautiful. It runs well. I was getting, you know, well above 120 frames, I think, at all points in time in the session, so I didn't have any optimization issues. Visually, the effects, the lighting, the quality of the textures and the assets looks fantastic. It really does look like a next-gen game. It doesn't feel like, you know, an older game or an older style of art. It does really feel contemporary. I dare to say it's pretty high up there as far as the graphical fidelity of certain tactical shooter games. It's definitely on that higher end. I do also like the sound quality in this game. They did a really, really good job with the sounds. I do, personally think they could be a little bit louder, a little bit more punchy to really, get that feeling that you're in a war zone. But otherwise, one of the really cool, unique things that 6 Days in Fallujah does is the sound within buildings or around corners feels muffled. It feels like you're actually fighting in a very claustrophobic space. It does really sell that kind of environment. So that is something that they did really well. Once again, I do like my tinnitus when I play my tactical shooters. The guys that see me play Arma know that I have that stuff cranked, but the sounds alone, very high quality. I also love their unique sound effects. The VoIP as well, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier. It does sound like you're in a building, which is, unique. You don't get that in Squad or a lot of other shooters where like it takes into account your environment as far as your voice is being projected. And so seeing that in 6 days was very important, especially with how much CQB is actually in the game. However, there are a couple of like weird gameisms where like if I'm on the radio, there's like a small animation, put the headset down and to actually shoot. And I totally get having like a push to talk animation as you're, activating it. It can get a little weird where you feel like you're animation locked when a guy pops around the corner and you're on your push to talk and your character slowly does this animation to put his hand back before he can pull the trigger. I would like some kind of urgency or being able to break out of animation lock. I think that's something that really sets apart newer games from older games, is like having fluid animations to where it doesn't feel like I click a button and I have to wait for this whole thing to play out before I can do anything else. That's definitely something that felt a little clunky, and clunk is semi a big factor in this game. We'll say that. So we'll get onto that more in the cons phase. What else did I like about this game? The effects when nades go off in buildings. Incredibly realistic. For example, if you throw a grenade within a building, it's going to kick up all that dust just all around the room. It's impossible to see sometimes, depending on how fast you go out of that room after a nade has been thrown. I think that adds a really unique dynamic that we don't see in any other tactical shooter as far as I know, where there's a consequence to throwing that grenade in the room, where generally gamers are used to throwing grenades or flashbangs without having to make a real conscious decision. In this game, whenever you are about to throw a grenade, you have to think, well, if I throw this grenade, it's going to kick up the dust in the room, which means we're going to have to sit outside the room a little longer. And if you're on a street with a whole bunch of windows and balconies, that might not be the best choice. You might want to go dynamic into the building. So I think that was a really cool touch, especially on a CQB oriented game. I also think in the little bit of the game that I got to play, they did a solid job highlighting the history of the battle itself. You can tell that they really listen to their military advisors. They really try to do the best job they can to kind of tell the story of the battle itself in an authentic and respectful manner. I think you can definitely tell the second you open the game that that is a focus point of 6 Days in Fallujah. So I really respect that. Now on to the cons. Once again, in the short, small little snippet of the game that I played, there were some things that I did not like. The first is the clunkiness. I think that this game suffers from some weird mobility problems. Kind of tied into that animation problem I said earlier, where you kind of feel like you can get animation locked a little bit. The movement speed felt really sluggish and unresponsive. It really felt like you were kind of gliding through or walking through like molasses as you were playing. And especially in a CQB oriented game, you do want that option to go dynamic into the room, to slide to your points of domination and to, really aggressively command that room. But I think with the way that their movement is set up right now, it does feel slightly clunky. And I think that kind of ties into a larger concern I have for the game, where at this point right now, it does feel like the game suffers from a small identity crisis. I feel like the game is stuck between trying to be like this mini documentary on the rails playthrough enlightening experience or educational experience, and like a full-on tactical shooter that's meant to be played and gameplay is a top focus. I think they're making a couple of compromises that when mixed together don't necessarily feel the best. Like the game looks amazing, there's a great theme to the actual gameplay, but when you come down to actually moving around, it feels awkward, it feels clunky, it feels slow. So I'm not sure how they'll address that. They can always rework how the player is controlled and how the player moves in the future. And the gunplay, I must say, was satisfying. It was crunchy. It didn't feel too cumbersome at all compared to the movement, but it was something that came up repeatedly. It's like I was always thinking, like, I can't tell if this is supposed to be an on the rails educational experience or a game that I can sit down night after night and crunch hour after hour playing. Now we're gonna get into like my specific pet peeves from, my experience playing Ready or Not or Arma 3 at this point. missing critical CQB features. Now, this is because we play so much Ready or Not, so much Ground Branch, so much Arma. You guys know that I've gone so heavily into that side of things as far as gaming is concerned that I really do hate when certain CQB games are missing certain features. And, you know, it's not even like a lot of games have these features by default. I don't think any game without mods right now has any form of a tap or squeeze function. In Arma, in Ground Branch, in Ready or Not, like any of those solutions, they're all modded in, whether it's through Ace or it's through Ready or Not's Tappy mod, which is a really cool mod. So I don't know, in a game like this where you want to kind of play authentically and you want to lean on, you know, whether you're appealing to vets or people who do enjoy CQB, I think you need to offer them the tools to be able to execute those actions as authentically as possible. So seeing something like a squeeze or tap kind of functionality would be great. In addition to high ready, low ready, there's an automatic high ready, low ready function in the game now. But coming from Ready or Not or even Arma 3 mods, I do always, you know, really want to be checking where my muzzle is. And I've gotten to this habit where if I'm ever flagging someone in a video game, I feel anxious. I get anxious. So once again, leaning back into the authenticity of 6 Days in Fallujah, I think it's a feature that would fit right in and would help players, you know, add more to that genuine room clearing experience. My final concern, which is a big one, but once again, as I mentioned in the beginning, could be adjusted by seeing more of the game, is replayability. Seeing this one game mode was cool. Seeing the procedural generation was very interesting because you did get somewhat of a varied experience from round to round. But I need to see more of the game modes and how the AI functions or what AI updates they have planned in the future. Just because I could see myself just wanting to play one map and getting out, because there's no real depth past, you know, what you make of the CQB experiences. Right now, as far as the threats that you can face, it was mainly just that V-bid that really changed things up. I really do hope that 6 Days gets some more in-depth AI mechanics, whether it's, I don't know if that'll do civilians, but, you know, surrendering AI or, you know, AI that's pretending to be dead, or IED threats maybe, or whatever, you know, it might be that increases the replayability of the game, just because it's pretty hard right now to tell how much, you know, you're going to be able to squeeze out of this experience. So that's something I'm hopeful for. I really am hopeful for, because I think there's a lot of unique things that they can do in 6 Days that would make every playthrough feel unique. But that's pretty much all I've got in my mind. The last thing is I know I'm probably in the minority here with the ability to pull from like a community or a large group of people to play these CQB games, but another pet peeve of mine is just having to take on these massive objectives like in Ready or Not or in Ground Branch, where I'm working with like 4 or 5 guys, which would normally be on a like platoon or maybe even company sized objective sometimes. It does feel a little weird because there's so much ground that you have to cover that you can't really, you know, use real tactics, you know, setting up isolation or containment or breaching buildings properly because you only have 4 guys. But time will tell. I'm extremely